Welcome to episode 21.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
The holiday season is upon us, and there is no time like the present to book your holiday getaway with 3D Travel Company. Whether you want to set sail on the high seas or visit exotic and foreign locales, maybe your dream is to see a magical mouse, or maybe you long for a getaway that will universally appeal to all. For a limited time, my listeners receive a Disney gift card with qualifying Disney vacation purchases booked and traveled by the end of 2016. For more information on booking any of these trips, go to 3dtravelcompany.com and tell them Trenton sent you. Hey everyone, today is Friday, November the 11th, 2016, and today I have a special shout out to the men and women of the United States Armed Forces. To each and every one of you, I say thank you for fighting for our freedoms, for the sacrifices that you and your families have made, and sadly to those who have paid the ultimate price for our freedoms. Originally, Veterans Day was called Armistice Day, as we were celebrating the end of World War I on November the 11th, 1918, which was renamed in 1954 to Veterans Day, the holiday that we celebrate today, which is a public holiday held on the anniversary of World War I, as we honor all U.S. veterans and victims of all wars. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the show. This week's special guest is Blake Powers from 98.7 KLUV in the Dallas metroplex area. Aside from being a radio DJ, Blake is also a voiceover talent, so stay tuned as he shares his stories about radio, voiceover, and more. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show, we have Blake Powers from 98.7 KLUV in Dallas. Blake, thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Trenton. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Blake. You know, the first thing we always like to start off with is just to get an introduction of who we're speaking with. Would you please just give us a brief story of who you are and how did you get into voiceover?
Sure. I guess we need to start with the basics. When I was in 8th grade, I heard a guy on the radio one day, and it sounded like he was just having the best time. So I called him, and in retrospect, I don't realize how it's hard to believe he spent 45 minutes with me while he was on the air doing his show. But every once in a while, he would say, "Oops, I got to put you on hold. I'll be right back." Slam the phone down and say whatever he needed to say on the radio, and he'd come back and continue talking with me. And he left such a lasting impression on me in 8th grade. I said, I think this is what I want to do. So I found a broadcasting school. I was living in Little Rock, Arkansas at the time, and I went there during my junior and senior year. And of course, in that training, part of it is voiceover work. And so that's how I began. And now, after over 30 years in radio and doing voiceover work, they both have intertwined very interesting way, even though they're different, but they have similarities.
What kind of similarities would you say they have exactly, Blake?
Well, in radio, years ago, we were taught to really over-punch what we were doing when it comes to reading copy, to really be a little over the top. And in retrospect, I look back and realize it really was. But then again, that was a sign of the times. Voiceover work, though, actually, it's more realistic. It's more everyday conversation type delivery, depending upon whether you're doing straight voiceover work or if you're doing animation or characters, or if you're doing a documentary. Different types of reads for different needs. But what's similar, of course, is the equipment that you use, and obviously trying to convey a message where people will be attracted to it, magnet and steel, and hopefully you hit a home run. So,
absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Blake. You know, Blake, one of the other things you mentioned was copy. Could you explain that to people who might not understand that in layman's terms?
Sure. Well, copy, for example, might be a 30-second or a 60-second piece of actual written information concerning a product or a service. In the broadcasting industry, we just call it copy. For example, I may have a 30-second or a 60-second piece of copy for Coca-Cola, or perhaps for McDonald's, or maybe a local company, maybe an accounting firm or a legal firm or an automobile dealership in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And within that 30-second or 60-second piece of copy, my job is to voice it. And in radio, I also have to produce it. So you might be adding sound effects. You might, of course, you could be adding a music bed, a small piece of music that goes behind the piece to further embellish it and help paint a mental picture, or as we call it in radio, theater of the mind. Whereas in voiceover work, it's different. Really, you're walking in, you're dealing with a client, and you're just doing the actual voice piece, and later a producer actually assembles it.
Most excellent. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, because I know copy is mentioned a lot, but sometimes, people may not understand the technical terms. So I appreciate you explaining that.
Sure.
Well, Blake, how did you end up breaking into the DJ world and becoming an actual radio host?
Well, as I said, I was 16, and I heard about this broadcasting school in my neighborhood. I thought, wow. And I found out it was free if you were a high school student.
Wow.
The Little Rock public school system would pay for you to go. I thought, okay, free training. Where's the downside in this picture?
Wow,
so yeah. I went for 2 years. I went to high school in the morning, and then I went to broadcasting school in the afternoon. And, of course, they taught you radio and voiceover techniques, how to write copy, how to produce a commercial, not only voice it, but how to actually produce it so it's ready to be on air, and whether it be for radio or television. And, of course, nowadays, same applies to online and other forms of delivery. And that was it. That got my foot in the door. I'll never forget, I got my first big break. I was working in a movie theater. I was behind the concession stand. I guess I was around 19, something like that. And this gentleman walks up. He's very nicely dressed. Looks like he had just gotten off work, suit and tie, maybe a meeting. And he ordered some popcorn and something to drink. And then he said to me, hey, you've got a pretty nice voice. Have you ever thought about maybe doing some broadcasting work or radio, or do you have any experience in that area? And I said, well, I just wrapped up a couple years of broadcasting school where they actually had their own real radio station. And I'm looking for my first break. And he hands me a card. He said, well, I want you to call my guy. And in radio, they call them a program director. He said, I want you to call our PD, our program director, tell him I met you at the movie theater, and let's see if we can get you an interview and see if there's something we can do to help each other out. Long story short, I got the midnight to 6 shift, the graveyard shift. That's where you can make more mistakes and less people hear it. And so I did that for a couple years. It was running a syndicated program till 4:30 in the morning, basically sitting there, babysitting it, and make sure it stayed on the air. Our local commercials ran, and maybe a weather report. Then from 4:30 to 6, I actually got to be a radio personality. I got to play music and talk about things and make a lot of mistakes, but learn along the way and pay my dues, as they say.
Absolutely. And sometimes we definitely learn best from our mistakes, don't we?
Oh, please. Yes. I still make them every day, and it's all about, taking those mistakes and then either turning them into gold or redoing them.
Absolutely, Blake. Thanks so much. That's, man, some golden nuggets you just shared with us, man. That's awesome how that just worked out for you after doing schooling and then just happening to meet that guy at the movie theater. That's awesome. So,
sometimes people say being at the right place at the right time is imperative. It really is. Sure, it's one thing to have contacts and have a decent resume, but also being at that right moment. And, sometimes you may wait years for that right moment, and other times that right moment may come into your life much sooner than expected. And it's about accepting it, being graceful and gracious, and doing the best work you possibly can with the experience that you have at that time.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Blake.
Sure.
Well, I know you've been involved with commercials for LG, Mazda, Nationwide, Pep Boys, and DirecTV, but what are some other types of VO works or commercials that you've done and been involved with?
Oh, sure. I've done some regional campaigns for Olive Garden, for Red Lobster, Flooring America, LA Weight Loss Centers, CVS. You put me on the spot. I'm trying to remember them all. I think that's enough.
You don't have to remember everything, but that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So I believe you've been a part of a television series as well, a Christian television program for children for quite a long time as well. Is that correct?
Actually, it's for the family. There is a worldwide Christian television program called Today with Marilyn and Sarah. It's the Marilyn Hickey Ministries. They're based out of they're based out of the Denver area, Denver, Colorado. I was working in Denver from 2000 to 2005 with CBS Radio and doing voiceover work from Denver. And it just so happens that the pastor at the church that I was attending, I found out he was needing somebody to do voiceover work, and we met and had lunch, and he put me in touch with the right people, and I gave them my demo. And another long story short, 10 years later, I'm still doing voiceover work for that program. And that program is actually heard in all 50 states, in most every major city in America, and I believe over 40 different countries. Being that it's Christian-based, there aren't commercials per se, but there are promotional announcements and with different products and things that they might be working with within the program. But yeah, I've been very blessed. I've been doing that for over 10 years, and I have a great relationship with Marilyn Hickey Ministries there in Denver. And I feel very blessed to be part of their ministry.
Well, that is most fascinating. To be a part of something for, even that long period of a time, that's amazing. That's a huge accomplishment.
Oh, thank you. It really has been. It's been good for me in so many ways. The people that I've come across over the years who've said, I've heard you, and I live in Milwaukee. I watched that TV show, and I didn't know that was you. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's me. Life goes on, and hopefully I will too.
Absolutely, and you are able to impact people in all of the states and different places around the world, which is fascinating. Because you're able to reach out and touch people's lives in places you're unable to physically be. So.
Yeah, that's the blessing in it all when you're, sharing a spiritual message, because I realize, religious freedom is one of our guarantees in America, and it's a wonderful thing. And I am Christian, and I'm very happy to be so. And if I can help somebody along, with their journey and their beliefs, fantastic. And whatever person chooses to believe in or to worship, of course, that's their business, and they're more than welcome to it. And I just wish, happiness and good life to all.
Well, absolutely, Blake. I wholeheartedly agree, and I am thankful that we live in a nation where we have the freedoms to choose how we want to live our lives. Blake, between you doing radio and voiceover and being a married man with a family, life can be challenging to juggle at times. Have you ever had a difficult situation you had to overcome? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I have, as a matter of fact. I'll be totally honest with you. Life is about difficulty. I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Life was never supposed to be perfect. We're all going to have instances of challenges in our life. I had one in 2006. I'm sorry, I should go back 2000. Yeah, it was 2006. I lost a marriage. I lost my job, and I lost my home. And it was a very, very, troubling time for me. And fortunately, my wife and I split on a very friendly term, but we just found out we were just going so many different directions away from each other with our professional life, our aspirations in life, and we parted as very good friends. But then to lose my job and to lose my house at the same time, that's back when the mortgage industry fell apart. And in 2007, and my home lost around 50% of its value. I was living in Florida. So, yeah, that was very, very trying. But thank God, after about 7 months of looking, a previous person I had worked with in Denver, Colorado, my former general manager with CBS Radio, contacted me, and he said he was looking for someone. He wanted to know if I had any interest on returning back to Denver. And I was like, thank you, God. to be able to go back to a city where I had been very blessed. I had excelled. I had been in the top 3 rated radio personalities in Denver for people who did the afternoon show between 2 and 7 p.m. Ratings are based upon different times of the day in radio, like the morning show or the midday show or the afternoon show or the evening show, and to be invited back and to do mornings at a station. And so I did that, and I managed to get back on my feet, both personally and financially and professionally. And I thank God for that. And it opened up a lot of new doors for me, too. And, there's a reason for everything that happens in life. We don't always see it because we're often dealing with the negative part of it. We sometimes fail to look and say to ourselves, there's a reason this is happening. And if I stay positive, especially in my life, if I stay positive in my faith, something good is going to come out of this, and I just have to allow God to let that happen or to make that happen. And it did. Some fantastic things came from that change in my life and opened up some new doors for me, and I'm grateful.
Well, most excellent. I guess it's whenever we have those challenges in our lives, we always should look for the silver lining and not look for all the dark clouds that are around us. So.
Yeah, you just have to remember there's a reason that it's happened. It's there to teach you something, so learn from it and make wiser decisions from it, plan accordingly, and take those valuable lessons that you've learned and obviously try not to repeat the negative ones again and move forward with a positive attitude. I know it's easier said than done. I get that. If anybody does, it's me. But trust me, just remember, everything happens for a reason. And if you go with a positive mind through all of these and say to yourself, you're going to overcome these things, you're going to come out a better person, and you're going to believe in something more than just yourself, you will survive and you will thrive and you will come into fruition for better things.
Absolutely, Blake. Thank you so much for sharing that positive word. When it comes to giving advice, what kind of advice do you have for somebody who might be looking at pursuing a voiceover career?
Well, advice-wise, let's start with technical. Make sure you have your own home studio. Fortunately, it's not nearly as expensive as it was many years ago. From the software programs that you'll need or program, you only need one, to microphones or microphone processors, to soundproofing a room. Some people use a closet in a bedroom and soundproof it and put in some lights or a light and use that for their vocal booth. There's so many ways to do it. You can Google this too, so you can get an idea of what your cost is going to be. There's many ways to set up a vocal booth. So think about that. And also networking, finding out the various websites that give you opportunities to audition for voiceover work. And also, if you're in the radio industry, that's obviously going to give you a step up. But we also have to remember radio is different than voiceover work. One piece of advice I would give, too, is if you are in radio, do not always use your radio card as your calling card for getting into voiceover, because oftentimes ad agencies, they have a stereotype in their mind of radio people. They think, hey, everybody, we're all over the top of everything we talk about. Hey, that's what they think a lot of times about radio people. Fortunately, radio has changed a lot over the years. It is more conversational. It's less over the top. And those who are in their 20s and 30s who don't have those stereotypical habits of talking at people versus with them have a better chance of making it into voiceover work. Radio used to teach people more to talk at them instead of with them. Because in radio, it's supposed to be a one-on-one conversation. Even though you're talking to millions of people, you might, for example, be on the air and say, hey, did you see that article the other day about Justin Bieber? You didn't say, did you guys, or did all 5 million of you in the city? You said you. It's building a one-on-one relationship. So in doing that, it's the same way with voiceover work. You want to make sure that when somebody's listening, they feel like they're talking to you or you're talking to them. And if you do that, you'll have a far better chance of succeeding. So separate radio from voiceover work. Use references from voiceover work versus radio so you are not stereotyped. That will take time. And also remember, don't be using pictures. You don't need pictures in voiceover work. Why? Because you're not doing TV. You're doing voiceover work. You are selling a mental picture An audio picture, I should say. Theater of the mind. You're not selling a photo of yourself. I know guys in the voiceover industry who look nothing like the way they sound. And they have told me, if I was to put an avatar or a picture up of myself with my demo when I was applying for this voiceover job with Radio Shack or this particular voiceover piece for Chevrolet, if they looked at my picture, they probably wouldn't hire me immediately just by looking at my photo, because I didn't have that image that they have in their head of what that Chevrolet driver is going to be or that Radio Shack customer is going to be like. Don't use pictures. Maybe come up with a logo of some kind for your voiceover company. Your voice sells yourself in the VO world, not a photo.
Most fascinating. That's something I had never thought of before, but it's a most excellent word for sure. Well, Blake, do you have any up-and-coming voiceover projects or anything that you can share with us at this time?
Well, actually, there is something I'm working on. I wish I was at liberty to say.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, I'm in a position where I just can't at this moment because it's a negotiation factor that's happening right now. But I will say this: voiceover work is more of a sideline piece for me because working for CBS keeps me extremely busy. My average work week, 70 hours minimum.
Wow.
And yeah, I am busy from 7:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and I work every other Saturday. Oftentimes I'm doing public appearances on the weekends. I had one today. We're talking here on a Saturday. My schedule sometimes can change, and in a very short notice, I can find out on a Friday afternoon, oh, by the way, Blake, can you be at the grand opening of a new Chevy dealership tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock for a live broadcast? Yeah, because A, you're getting paid. B, it is part of your job because part of the job of a broadcaster is being out in the public, shaking hands, getting to know your listeners, increasing your network of fans, and being genuine, truly meeting people and saying, hey, thank you, because if you weren't listening, I wouldn't have a paycheck. And that's how it works. So, keep knocking on doors, keep making contacts. As I said, get involved with these online voiceover. Sometimes this is some of the best ways to get started because as you slowly but surely get projects from these online websites, you have new pieces to add to your demo. And keep your commercial demo, if you're doing a demo for commercial voiceover work, approximately a minute. You can get about, a handful of 10-second segments from different pieces you've done. If you're going to do characters and for animation stuff, that's a different type of demo. If you're interested in doing characters, you need to reach out for animation voiceover coaches. They are out there. Find a good one. Be prepared to pay. They're going to cost you. One of the vocal coaches I have worked with for commercial voiceover work is Mark Cashman out of Los Angeles. Mark is an excellent coach, but be prepared to invest in your future. These meetings do not come cheap. There's a reason, because they have been doing this for a long period of time. Mark has won multiple awards, but for radio people, oftentimes a handful of lessons are good enough to help reorganize your thought and put you in a little different direction for the voiceover world. For someone who doesn't have a radio background, it's imperative that you get some voiceover coaching because there's a lot of techniques that you need to learn about microphone techniques, intonation, pronunciation. Maybe you have a specific dialect. Perhaps you have a southern dialect. Perhaps you have a northeast dialect. You'll have to find out what you can do with that dialect. You might be in a situation where there's only a certain type of voiceover work you can do because you have such a strong dialect. Whereas maybe you grew up on the west area of America where there's more of a Midwest dialect. It's very flat. You really can't tell if a person, grew up, you can't tell where they grew up, whether it was California, Nevada, Arizona. That a dialect is often the best because you can go different directions. And if you have some ability to do various voices, you might be able to pull those off easier without having a strong regional dialect as your anchor. So sorry about throwing so much at you at one time right there.
No problem. I mean, that's what the show's about, to teach people and help educate them and motivate them and inspire them to, learn about this industry. And maybe it's something that they've already looked at pursuing, or maybe it'll become something they'll look at pursuing because of the information you're sharing with them. So I appreciate everything you're telling us, Blake.
Sure. Be persistent. Again, get the home studio, do some Google searching on how to set that up. You can probably ask around and get some advice from some other voiceover people, but also bear in mind, it is competitive. There are going to be situations where people don't want to share a lot of information because maybe they do voiceover for a full-time living. And also keep in mind, you have to be honest here, there are a lot of people doing voiceover work. And a lot of people from the broadcasting industry, whether it be radio or television, who have decided over the past 10 years or so to add to their resume by doing voiceover work versus just radio commercials. So they're out there too. So be persistent, do your auditions. If you don't get chosen for one, just say to yourself, that wasn't the right one for me, but I'm going to get better and I'm going to keep working at it until the right ones do come up.
Absolutely. So just keep on persevering and pushing on.
Yeah, and making contacts and making friends with people, and the real genuine friends with the people in the voiceover industry who can maybe guide you a little bit and give you some additional pointers, and maybe say, oh, I know a great animation coach. Oh, I know this other guy. He is excellent teaching you how to do documentary voiceover work, which is different. Oh, I know this guy. He's wonderful with commercial voiceover work. I heard Blake Powers talk about him. Mark Cashman. Call him in Los Angeles. He can do it by Skype or in person or even over a plain telephone and give you vocal coaching. There's many ways to get it done, so keep an open mind.
Absolutely, Blake. Well, do you have a website or a way in which people could contact you if they would be interested in hiring you for voiceover work?
Sure. Actually, I'm on SoundCloud, but at this point, because I am so busy with CBS that voiceover work is more of a hobby for me right now. You can find me on Facebook. Just look for Blake Powers, BlakePowers, and you can also find me on the CBS radio station website at KLUV.com. It's called 98.7 KLUV in the Dallas-Fort Worth market. Be happy to converse with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with our listeners. I have just a couple questions here as we wrap up, Blake. I would like to know, what is your favorite cartoon character and why?
Oh my gosh, that's a tough one because I have so many. I think one of my favorites, and I don't even really know why, but I think he's just because you've heard the term less is more.
Yes.
It's used a lot in the broadcasting industry because we're taught a lot of times to tell people a lot with a little. Because people are busy. They're driving their car. They're washing their clothes. They're running an errand. They've got their kids screaming in the back seat. So we're taught to try to tell people things in 10 or 15 or 20-second segments that hopefully hit home. There's a character, I'm sure you'll remember him from the old Looney Tunes days with Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd.
Oh, absolutely.
The reason I like Elmer Fudd, because Elmer was funny with brevity of wit. For example, Elmer and back in Looney Tunes were the ones who started that approach of turning and looking directly at the audience. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
They would just stop there, and the character, like maybe Elmer Fudd was walking very quietly because he was hunting rabbits, and he would just suddenly stop and look out at the audience. Now, bear in mind, those old Looney Tunes cartoons, they were shown in movie theaters way back in the day before the actual movie started. There was no previews back then. There was no ads to watch. It was cartoons. Those cartoons were actually written for adults. And a lot of people don't realize that. He would stop and just suddenly turn like he'd go, "Hello there. I'm hunting rabbits." And then he would start stepping away again.
That was a really good Elmer Fudd.
Oh, thanks. And I just cracked up. I was like, that's funny. And it's because he was funny in a short amount of time. And so it just stuck with me. It's, funny when you talk to comedians who really hone their craft, it's not how long the joke is, it's how the joke is delivered.
Absolutely.
And it's the same way with reading copy. You may have a 30-second piece of copy, and you may say to yourself, wow, this looks boring, but it's the way you say it that's going to get the point across, whatever it may be, whatever product or service it is that it's related to. You just read it straight and you don't put anything into it, yes, that will be boring. But if you put a little thought into it, and of course, whoever the client is, they may be standing there nearby, and they may have certain words they want said a particular way, certain phrases that need to be said a particular way. And of course, you're going to do that to please the client. But also sometimes a client will go, I'm really not for sure, or I wonder how we could put a spin on that. And if your brain is spinning around and on point, you may say, I got an idea. And you may do it right there on the spot, and the client may go, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. That's exactly what I needed. Or they may say, well, I like that, but can you change those last two words to say this? I think that would be a little more impactful. Oh, okay, then you do it. So it's working together as a team.
Absolutely. Well, the last question I have for you today, Blake, is what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
Oh, the legacy. Oh my gosh, I don't know. I just hope maybe I can inspire someone who can say, hey, if that Blake Powers guy could make it and come out of Little Rock, Arkansas, market 80-something in the radio industry, and move his way to market number 5 in Dallas, maybe I'm down here in Stepping Down, Mississippi, or Lost as Hell, California, or Dark as a Dungeon, Michigan, and I can get out of here and make it too. If he can do it, I can do it. So persevere. Be prepared to make sacrifices. Be prepared to take losses. Be prepared, though, to come out at the end a better person.
Well, thank you for sharing that inspirational word with us, Blake. Blake, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show today. Would you please just give us a closeout as a radio announcer?
Sure, okay. Hello there. This is Blake Powers. Well, hey, hang on. Yeah, that's me. I'm a guy on the radio, and I'm a guy on voiceover work, and I do both. But I do them separately, because if I tried to do them simultaneously, I would probably see a lot of things that just made 0 sense. So if you're trying to make some sense, maybe this is the right business to go into, and hopefully it will turn into dollars. And it's voiceover. It's radio. It's having fun. And it's getting paid to do it. Oh, my gosh, I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Trenton with Who Did That Voice?
98.7 KLUV.
Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Blake Powers. And if you did, I sure would love to hear from you. Just leave me a message on my Contact Me page at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Hey everyone, a special thanks goes out to New World Comics, where Buck has donated another amazing item for us to give away this week. He's located at 6219 North Meridian Avenue in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73112. Hey everyone, this week we have a second giveaway for a local Oklahoma City resident. It's to a store called The Grotto in the Quail Springs Mall, Suite 122. They do salt therapy, and the gift card is for one of their special salt inhalation therapy sessions. It helps open up your lungs and your airways, so a very big special thank you to The Grotto, who is the first established halotherapy location in Oklahoma. Thank you guys so much. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us next Friday for our next special guest, Courtney Rue. She is a voiceover artist, a life coach, and she is known as Courtney the Paramedic on Chicago Med. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, are you ready to win some awesome prizes? All you have to do is like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter for your chance to be instantly and automatically entered for your chance to win.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.